Hi, Lauren.
Hi, Shannon.
I have a joke today.
Ooh.
So I asked my dog, what's 2 minus 2? He said nothing. Is that good? That's good. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to our podcast called What They Don't Say. We're diving deep. We're going in today.
Yeah.
We have these books next to us, these
Lovely, fat, thick
files. Some of you might have thought we were about to say penises, but...
Well, kinda.
But anyways, we have these big files next to us, and if you're watching this at all, then you will see them, and these are our trial files.
There's 7 of them, and they're all this fat.
Yeah.
And when I say this fat, I'm talking like a couple inches.
Like probably 2 inches. Some of them are fatter than others.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we have about 7 files of these in total. There's only 2 on each desk right now because we're worried if we stacked them up, they would like cover our faces. But that's what's next to us. If you're not watching, if you're watching, you can see them.
Super fun legal documents.
Yeah, it's essentially a just pure record, like word for word, of every sort of legal aspect of the court case that we went through. They're here today. Why are they here today, Lauren? Why do we have these here?
I don't know. Last night we were just hanging out with our friend and drinking.
No, wrong answer. They're here because today we're gonna start talking about the court process.
We are going to start talking about the court process.
Yeah. And we were having a hard time trying to figure out like where exactly was the best place to start. And we figured
From the beginning.
Might
as well.
The very first thing that happens when you begin the court process, at least in our case. So we went through a military trial, military court-martial, which I believe we had mentioned in an earlier episode, but it's a different process from like civilian legal system.
But same laws.
Yeah, same laws. Just like weirder proceedings, I would say.
Yeah. And just like I guess the people you talk to is the thing I would say that's the most different between a military process and then just a normal civilian process. Like instead of like talking to the police, we talked to OSI, which is the Office of Special Investigations, which is like the police or like kind of the FBI of the Air Force.
Yeah. And so for us, this like took place at the Air Force Academy in Colorado Springs. And so this is the Office of Special Investigation is at the United States Air Force Academy base, right? That's what you would call it?
Yeah, I mean, like, there's OSI offices just on Air
bases.
Force bases.
Yeah.
And the Academy is an Air Force base, so that is where it was conducted. And to back up, the person who assaulted Shannon and I, as well as many other girls, was a cadet, or aka a student, at the Air Force Academy, which is why it took place there. So even though we are not in the military took it into their hands, essentially.
Yeah.
Which was a gamble. Like, we weren't really sure if we should go through the civilian process or through the military process, but we thought that maybe it would be quicker than the civilian process. Like, there was a few things, and definitely, like, a lot of, like, pros and cons there that we can, like, talk about when we get to that point. But we just decided we're going to take this route, see what happens.
Well, I think more than anything, it was not really up to us. So, like, I was the first person to call the Air Force Academy. They have, like, it's not an OVA office, it's a SANE office. I can't remember what it's called, but it's an acronym.
Yeah.
For basically reporting sexual assaults that have something to do with the Air Force Academy. And so, like, I had made the phone call and just said, like, I need to report a sexual assault. And, like, some of the questions they ask are you a member of the Air Force or of the military at all? Are you a cadet here, or are you a civilian? So I was like, I'm a civilian, and the person who sexually assaulted me was a cadet. And so I don't really know if it was up to us whether it was a civilian case or a military case. Like, the only reason we had an option to go military was because of that. Yeah. But they could have said, no, we want to only take on cases where everyone is a cadet or everyone is involved in the Air Force. But yeah, as Lauren had said, like, I think traditionally the civilian process has a lot of stereotypes that it takes years and years and years. But our trial also took like 2 or 3 years in total. So, you know.
I don't really think that was actually a factor that played in. Like, it was, I think any way you go with this, which is probably normally going to be a civilian route, it's going to take fucking forever.
Yeah.
Like, so long to the point where you go through months, you hear nothing, and you even forget about it at times.
Like, I never forgot about it, but
like, there are just like weeks where like, you're like, la la la, like living your life, and then you get a phone call, and you're like, oh fuck that, you know, like it's just like in your face.
But everyone is called, this is like a thing that really bothered me a lot throughout the court process, was that everybody is called like sergeant or captain. And then on top of that, they use military time. Now, for Lauren, this doesn't bother her. This really pissed me off for some reason, because I was like, grr, I have to call you captain this and captain that, which is a respect thing, and I understand that. But it was just like everyone who was involved, who like people who were my attorneys, were all military. They're all Air Force. They were all given to us. And they're like, we'll be meeting you at 14 o'clock. Like, I don't want to think
2 o'clock.
12 plus what equals 2. Okay, 2 o'clock. Like, I don't want to think about that.
That's not how you think about it.
That's how I think about it.
Like, if it's like, you like, I like go, like, I subtract. So if you're saying it's like 1600, that's 4 o'clock.
Oh yeah, it's 1400, not even 14. Fuck me.
It's 14 o'clock.
Okay, well, you know what I'm saying. But, however, the very beginning of the process, so I called to make a report. It's not a very detailed report. Like they don't ask, like this person is just kind of the middleman to pass off the information to the Office of Special Investigations so that they can begin taking it into their hands and make sure that everything is like legal. Like that phone call wasn't a recorded thing. It was just a report. That's all it was. And then following that, the next step is having an investigation. And you start off an investigation by bringing the person who is alleging this assault in. That's how you start. I guess I was the first person to be brought in as well. So the first person that texted me was someone who would be interviewing me to begin the investigation. And she was really sweet. Like, she had texted me and she said, hi, this is so-and-so. I'm reaching out for, to begin this investigation. What is your schedule like? Very, very normal, like civilian-like talk. It felt very comfortable. So I ended up scheduling my interview. It was almost exactly a week after I had been assaulted. They want to get it done as soon as possible so that like the information is as fresh and there and available as it can be. And so I remember it was a really snowy day and I was driving there with my parents. And like, for one, like a military base of any sort, I think is very confusing. And there's a lot of like...
This place is fucking massive. Like, they have acres upon acres upon acres upon acres of land. It's insane. And like,
and you lose service too. So
yeah, you're like in the forest. There's like a huge forest on this. Like there's a fucking golf course. There's multiple airstrip. Like, it is insane. So
it's really overwhelming for someone who doesn't spend a lot of time there.
Yeah, especially like rolling up to like, they have like the front gates and there's just like
armed guards
that are holding like freaking, that look like assault rifles. And you're like, oh my god, like I'm not doing anything wrong, but I feel like I am.
Yeah, they're like they check usually the back of your car. They have you roll down all of your windows before going in.
Do you have any explosive or drugs on you? Like, what the fuck?
If I did what I tell you, probably not. Like, no, sir, I'm just a little girl here. I have no bombs.
I'm just a girl.
Yeah, just a girl. But so, we're entering the Air Force Base and I was with my parents, like I had said, they were driving and I was already super nervous. Like, I didn't really know what to expect. I knew that it was going to take a long time. I knew there was going to be a lot of questions. I knew it was probably going to be really emotionally draining. We had a hard time finding the OSI office in general. Like, it's not like in a secret location by any means.
But it's also just like in a weird, like, it's just not near anything. Like, it's just this like weird square building.
Yeah.
In like the middle of like this piece of land.
Yeah. And so eventually the lady that had been messaging me, like, we found the office. She meets us outside, and we walk in, and it's a big building with like granite tile floors, and there's like memorabilia on the walls, and we're like the only ones in it. Like maybe there are offices, I don't even know, but we go down the stairs like into the basement of the building, and we go into this room. I think it had like a couch and a table, and it was the woman, and then there was another man, and they are so lovely. Like they are so kind and warm, and like the room was warm and almost welcoming. Like not the colors weren't welcoming or anything.
It was like going into a therapist's office, like the way they were set up. Like you felt like you were talking to psychologists.
Yeah, literally. Like it was just this warm feeling, like inviting almost that, and it, like everything, like it was okay. Like it wasn't cold and uncomfortable. It was inviting.
Like a police station or something. It wasn't like that.
Not at all.
Yeah.
And the initial questions were super like my parents were still there. It was like, do you want coffee? How are you doing today? Like, what do you have for breakfast? Do you have any plans later today? Like very chill, surfacey level conversations. And then eventually they took me into, there was a room like through the room that we initially met in. And it was the same situation. Like I sit on a couch, they sit on these two chairs. There was a camera, because everything has to be video and audio recorded. And one person in the interview is the one that mainly asks the questions. And then the other one is taking a lot of notes. And then like after about 10 minutes of talking, the person asking the questions will ask the note taker, like, hey, do you have any questions? Do you need her to clarify anything? And then the process just basically goes like that until they have all the information they want for the moment. They interviewed my parents as well. But that was just like, that was the preface of it. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Did you have the same experience?
So I think that, and I'm sure you felt the same way, like I had no idea what to expect. And I think that anytime you're going into like a police interview or anything like that, like you don't know what you're walking into. And I would say the same thing for every step of this entire process. We just had no idea what the fuck was going on. And like, I remember, I felt very stressed out, and I was very anxious before. And I remember like I was with you, and you were like, you need to like eat breakfast. Like I'm gonna make you eggs, and I'm like, no. Like there's no time. Like there's no time for eggs. Like I don't have fucking time. Like that. I was like, I think I was very just like stressed out, and I hadn't really talked about my stuff in a long time. It had been like a year. Mm-hmm. I think like over a year. So I think that part was really scary because I knew I was going to have to walk in and talk about that stuff. But when I got there, like I did have that same experience of like these two people were super friendly and they were like really welcoming, and I didn't expect that.
They didn't feel military-like.
And they're not wearing uniforms. No. They were just like wearing like suits.
Yeah.
Like, so it wasn't intimidating. Like I felt like I could talk to those people. That's why I it felt like I was sitting in some sort of psychologist's office talking to psychologists, because like the questions they're asking and things like that, it was like it felt open. Mm-hmm. And it felt like I could just say anything.
Like you could be really honest.
Yeah.
And these interviews are designed for you to feel honest. And in addition to that, these people are like actually trained to ask you questions about sensory details and things like that, so that you will remember things that maybe you hadn't remembered. So if this is something that you haven't talked about in a long time, which was in your case, they'll maybe be like, do you remember what you were wearing? Like, what did the bed feel like? Do you remember, like, did you have jewelry on? Did you smell anything? Did you taste anything? Those sorts of questions will be asked, hoping that you will remember those really key details that might be useful in court. However, with all of this comfort being said, like, I didn't really have a whole lot of experience talking to, like, people in the military. Like, obviously the man who assaulted us, some of his friends, but I didn't really have any encounters with, like, very serious, like, classics, like, stereotypical, like, military people. So I'm like, oh, these people are awesome. They're so kind and soft and squishy and warm. And I didn't understand that literally every single word that was said in that OSI interview could be used fully against me in court. Mm-hmm. Like,
yeah,
in a negative way.
In a negative way. And obviously when everything we said in there was completely honest and true, but it's like if you said a word that was kind of weird in that sentence that made it sound like kind of off, they could take that and twist that. So it was kind of like I'm sitting here and I'm talking about my experiences and I used a word that maybe I could have used a better word,
or maybe it's a word that you normally don't use, but because you're a little bit nervous
and you like are like, I've never done this before, like I don't know what's going on, you like say something and you're like, oh, that sounded weird, and then it is it's like, just they just take that and they fucking run with it. They're like, this is great, and they question you about it later and you're like, what the fuck, like that is not what I was saying, like
that's not what I meant,
or that's not what I meant, or like they'll take segments from it, like short segments, and be like, well, you said
no
this.
Context.
And I'm like, well, that's completely taken out of context. How can you, like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, that is like much more down the road. But
that's defense, I guess, so we should have clarified that.
Yeah, that's defense is doing
they
that.
are the ones that use it, which obviously they have to make a case, but
it's fucked.
Yeah.
Like, I wish that I had sat down and they had like been warm and comforting and like inviting. I think that was good, because then I could talk about these things in an open and honest way. But I wish they would have said like, hey, like this is going to be like recorded and audioed, so anything that you do say like can be used down the line. They don't tell you that, and so you're completely like blindsided by
like
this.
You know it's all being recorded,
right? But they don't tell you that it can be used in court.
And I think the bigger thing, like, it's not the fact that it's even going to be used, it's that this is the very first account. This is the first time that they're hearing what you said, or what you say. This is the very first time that you are recalling what happened. Like the first time they're hearing about it. And so if you say something then, and then you're testifying in court later, and it doesn't match up pretty much perfectly, they will call you out on it. Or if you say something then, and maybe you remembered it wrong, or like you were like, I recalled these events as happening one day and then the next day, and then maybe a few weeks later you're like, holy shit, no, it was totally flip-flopped. It kind of doesn't matter, because like the first account they hear is the one they're going to take as like the baseline of truth, which is understandable, because what else do they have to go on? But it is kind of grueling later on.
Yeah, if there's even the smallest lack of consistency in what you were saying, they just...
Yeah. But also you can't be too consistent. Like that's the other issue too. If you're too consistent, it's like, this must be
you planned this and you memorized this and all this stuff. Like that can't have happened. That wasn't real. So it's like, you can't even fucking win. Like if you're too consistent, then it's like, well, you're clearly lying because this is like too perfect. But if you're not consistent enough, then it's like, well, see, she said this time and this time, and they're a little bit different, so she must be lying.
Yeah. And like something that happened, like something in particular that was really used against me was this word pranced. So defense and prosecution, they each going to trial need to have a sort of like layout of how they're going to defend their person, obviously. So you have like these main ideas and you have supporting ideas, and something a defense really liked to nail me on was what I said immediately after being raped, as well as what I said in the OSI interview about like right before I was raped. In the interview, I was talking about how one moment in time, I had been moving away from my assailant. And the way I would describe it now, and how I had described it to my friends, and how I had described it like every other time I had talked about it, was that I like moved away quickly, urgently skipped. Like that was how I talked about it. Like I moved away quickly was the point. And in my interview, I said I pranced away from my assailant, which I don't use the word prance. It is not a normal word in my vocabulary at all. But then the defense, like repeatedly in opening statements, closing statements, and questioning, they had said things like, you pranced away? That doesn't sound like you are afraid of him. That doesn't sound like that's, the word prance is traditionally used in settings and in contexts where you are happy, you're prancing through flowers with your husband, you are prancing on the way to get a fucking espresso martini, you know, like pranced is used in a squishy, warm context. And I had said that. And I remember in my interview, like I said pranced, and then they were like, can you explain what that means? And I was like, I urgently moved, like I was moving from one place to the next.
Mm-hmm. So you provided that context. Swiftly. Yeah.
But the pranced was taken so out of context in trial. Mm-hmm. But it was just a literal thing of, I was nervous in the interview, and I said something that I said something where the word didn't actually mean what I was thinking.
Right. You were just like, maybe had nervous energy, and so you're like, I know for me, I was talking really fast.
Yeah.
And so like you kind of like run over words, and you just like say words, and you're like, oh, that was weird. I don't know why I just said that.
Yeah.
So I think that like totally makes sense.
But because it was like the first word that I had said,
yeah,
that was the one taken with the most value, as opposed to when I gave context after it.
Yeah. I also think that another thing that was like so fucked was apparently I honestly like can't remember your interview, but they like make you watch this stuff. Like when you're like, getting ready to go into court, like you watch your own. And I was sitting in like one of the back rooms in the courthouse, and the like head defense attorney walks in. And
the military or the civilian one?
The civilian one.
Okay.
Who was a cock.
But yeah, to clarify,
biggest cock.
So we each got, I had like 4 different attorneys throughout the entire process, but like we each have one attorney for ourselves. They call them a special victims counsel, an SVC. And then we have a head prosecutor who was like kind of in charge of all of the ducklings, who's the one that, I say ducklings, what I really mean is the victims, but anyways. And then defense counsel, they had 2 military or Air Force attorneys that he was given, as well as they hired a very, very expensive civilian attorney who was like known for, his name's Daniel Conway, and he sucks.
Yeah, he
is like. Can we get sued for defamation on here?
No.
Okay, great. Daniel Conway, very expensive military.
These are opinions. We're not stating facts here. We're just saying he's a dick.
Our opinion is that Daniel Conway,
and frankly, not a very good lawyer.
Well, I think
I was not impressed by him at all.
I think so.
He could have come. I just think he could have come at me so much harder. In my head, I had so many arguments to use against me, and they used none of them. And I was like, "What the fuck? You guys are slacking." Anyway, sorry.
I think. I don't know if it made sense. Like, he's a military defense lawyer, but he's a civilian one. He's a civilian lawyer who's known for his military defense cases.
And known for defending men who have, in theory, sexually assaulted. Allegedly. Which they probably did.
Like, there are...
but he, like, gloats about it on his website. He was like, this person was up for all these different charges, blah, 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 and I got him off. And it was like... That person definitely should have gone to prison. What the fuck?
Yeah, and the thing is, like, the thing to remember is, we understand, like, we have a judicial system for a reason. Like, you know, it's innocent until proven guilty. And so the defense attorneys, they are just doing their job. But obviously, there's a lot of emotions around this entire, there is and was a lot of emotions around this entire thing. So when I go on, you know, the defense attorney's website, and there are things that was man accused of brutally assaulting a woman, like not sexually, or sexually, as well as like beating the shit out of her. And there's like details about the case about how she said her head was bashed in, and there was, you know, she was slammed against the wall, and she had all these injuries, but I got him off. Like,
it's like, you're not even just like a defense attorney. Like, you just don't have morals or values.
That's kind of how I felt.
And that's just like to the point where it's like, yeah, sometimes as a defense attorney, you do have to defend people who you know are guilty. And that's like part of being a lawyer. But this guy was like, yeah, all these people, I know they did all this fucked up shit, and I got them off. Like, there was a lot of ego, like big dick energy. Like, it was just gross. And like, he just...
I think he was distracted, though. So you're saying that you don't think he showed up very well?
He did.
So he had a case, I think it started a day or 2 after ours, and it was like a big one that had been really public, or ours, there was like one news thing about it. But so he was going into something that I think was requiring a lot more of his attention, whereas ours, I just think he was a little, like his suits didn't match. There was some weird shit like that. But anyway, sorry, to go back, you were talking about how you were reviewing your OSI video right before trial, and lead defense attorney walks in.
Well, that was actually 2 separate things. Sure. No, it's okay. But yeah, I was just like in the back room, And I don't know if I was waiting to testify or whatever it was, but like, he walks in and he's like, "Hi, Lauren," like all like nice and cheery,
The
and I'm
facade
like,
of an asshole.
I'm like, "What do you want?" Like, I was a dick. I was such a dick. So I was like, "How dare you walk in here and like say my fucking name?"
Mm-hmm.
Like, I was pissed off. And he like sits down like right in front of me, too close to me, like way too close. Like his knee was like almost touching mine. I was like, get the fuck away from me.
That bitch.
And he's like, "So, in Shannon's OSI interview, she mentioned that the sex was consensual." And I don't even think I could keep a straight face. I think that I like...
You mean rape?
I'm sorry. I was like, what are you talking about? Like, I literally could not keep it together because he literally tried to walk in there and tried to convince me that...
Like, was he just lying?
Yes.
I don't know if we might have talked about this a long time ago.
Like, this man was just, like, fully taking something out of context and, like, fully lying to my face, trying to convince me that Shannon was making this whole thing up. And I'm sitting there, and I'm
Is
just
that even, like...
It's like coercion.
I guess it's fine, though. Well, because I know that defense has the right to, like, talk to everyone that's going to testify prior to testifying.
Right.
I really thought that our attorneys did have to be present, but actually no, because they had said he was going to call me, and then he never did. Wait, but so what was he giving details about this?
Not really. That's like all I remember. And I was sitting there, and I was like, "You're such a fucking idiot. Like, who do you think I am? Like, do you think I'm just like some like dumb bitch?"
Oh my God, she did?
Wow,
you are so
you're wow,
Mr. Daniel Conway. I had no idea that I wasn't raped. Thank you for informing me of this information and correcting it. Now that I know, all of these traumatic experiences that I've had from this man are suddenly, they were consensual, so they're fine. Thank you,
fine.
Daniel Conway.
It was just like, I was like flabbergasted. Because I was like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, how dare you come in here, say my name, sit way too fucking close to me, and then try to tell me that, like, Shannon is just making this shit up and that she said it was consensual.
Well, that was the big thing, is, like, as a... That's just, like, really funny, sorry. Not funny, it's just like, what?
But it's, like, it is funny because it's just so fucked up.
The defense attorney was trying to get in your head, which, like, totally makes sense, totally their job, but not very cash money, I would say. I didn't really appreciate it.
Well, okay, I think there are strategic ways to be doing that, and obviously both sides are trying to make their case, but in my mind, they would just do stuff like that, and it was so pathetic because it made me realize that they didn't really have a great case against us, because the stuff that they were doing was just such a reach.
Well, and even if they did have a really strong case, like, I think there were points of the case that were strong on their end, and obviously, like, we each, if there was a scoreboard, like, we each gained some points.
Yeah.
But I feel like even if they did have a strong case, they would still be doing these things, because it's just, like, any sort of way to get in your head, like, this is a super fragile time for everybody involved, and as a defense attorney, if you can kind of, I guess, fluster a victim before they testify, or confuse them even a little bit, which was probably what he was trying to do. Like, Shannon said it was consensual. The person that, you know, you have known for one of the people you've known the longest in your life, someone who you're related to, someone who you're friends with, is saying that it's bullshit. And that would, like, fuck with me. I'd be like, what do you mean? Like, what?
But that's why I was just like, what do you...
It was so unbelievable, I guess.
It was so unbelievable that I was just like, bro, like, what are you doing?
Bro, what?
That was, like, my initial reaction. I was just sitting there, and I was just like, who the fuck do you think you are?
Yeah. So after your investigation...
Or after your interview.
Yeah.
They decide if they want to open up an investigation.
Yes. And if they want to take it on, or if they want to pass it to, like, local police. Mm-hmm. And ultimately, they did decide to take it on. And I think... I don't know exactly why that was. I think part of it was that for me, I had like a hospital record for after, so there was some good evidence there. And I also let them know, hey, I think there's a lot more people involved in this. The people that were close to me that I thought might want to testify and talk about it, like was another one of our friends. And so I gave OSI that information, which in itself, the defense really didn't like that, because they would say, or tried to kind of use it against us. Like, basically, Shannon coerced all of these people around her to say they were assaulted by the same man. Like, that was their initial thing, was like, Shannon is the ringleader.
Yeah, so weird.
Giddy up, kiddos. Let's all go through a 2.5 year long brutal investigation of our lives.
Just for shits and giggles. And a week-long
court process because I'm mad at him for some bullshit reason. But anyway, so they looked at me as like a ringleader. But anyhoosers. So I have my investigation. I say, hey, I think you should reach out to Lauren King. I think you should reach out to somebody else. And I also had said, I have this gut feeling that there's a lot of other people involved. And I said that specifically because our assailant, on the night that I was assaulted, him and I, like, before anything close to assault happened, him and I were having a conversation. We were each cooking dinner at my house, my parents' house, and he had talked about, like, all these sexual partners that he had. He was like, I don't really know the number, and then he had said something like, I think it's around 10 or so, and I knew this wasn't true, because one of our friends who was, like, really close with him as well was like, no, this man has slept with a lot of women. And I had thought that the number was closer to, like, 30 or so. That's what I was told by this other person. Mm-hmm. So when he was like, I think I've slept with about 10 people, I was like, no, I don't know what to call it. Like, do we call him Mr. Assailant?
For now.
No, Mr. Assailant. I know there's more people. And he was like, well, like 10 or 12, but I don't really remember the rest. And in hindsight, I looked at, okay, if you're kind of a serial rapist, if you've raped, like, you know, at least 4 women, and you have all of these sexual partners, and you only remember 10 or 12, and you can't remember the rest, you're either so fucked up, like so drunk that you don't remember, or you are, like, beating it out of your soul to not remember that you have assaulted all these other women.
Yeah.
So that's what I let OSI know, was just, hey, I have this feeling, I think there's a lot of other people involved, I think you should really look into this. Mm-hmm. They ultimately decide, yes, let's open up an investigation. We do want to keep this within the military court process. Let's get after it, basically. So I think it was, so I was interviewed on a Friday, and I want to say it was like the next Monday or Tuesday, I got a phone call from a British man at the Air Force Academy. This was my first encounter with somebody who was very, very formal. You know, he's talking in his British accent. Hello, this is Sergeant, Agent, whatever, Major XYZ. And I'm calling, is this Shannon Porter? Like, I'm calling to talk about the investigation.
You have a terrible British accent.
Can you do it better for me?
Not a command, just like come out.
Yeah. But anyway, so I get this phone call, and I'm outside of the gym. Like, I just finished working out. So I was about to go home, and it's just this, like, scary phone call with this man. Like, I'm like, okay, I know he's from the Air Force Academy, but he has this accent, which is fine. Low-key a little bit hot and confusing for me. But then he's, like, super formal. And he's like, ma'am, we need to pick up your bed sheets. And I'm like, tonight? And he's like, most likely not tonight, most likely tomorrow. And I'm like, why do you need my bed sheets? Like, there was very little context. And, like, obviously he needed my bed sheets because they wanted to try to get DNA samples. But it was like, oh, okay, so if you're picking them up tomorrow, I was like, can I still sleep in my bed? And he says, just don't mess the bed sheets up. Like, don't mess them up. And I was like, well, so I can't sleep in them. And he's like, you can sleep in them as long as you don't mess up your comforter and your sheets.
What the fuck does that even mean?
And I'm like, well, I've been sleeping in my bed for the past, like, week or so. How do I not mess it up? And I remember there was this moment of, like, everything was super real. It was like, oh, my life is about to be invaded. Everyone else involved, their lives are going to be invaded. And, like, that was the first moment where I was like, fuck, I'm scared. Like,
yeah.
that was real.
Because that's personal, you know, and that's like intimate. And I also think for you, this is kind of backtracking, but like your bed is supposed to be your safe place. Not only were you assaulted in it, now you have these people who are like ripping it apart so that they can go take it into a lab and DNA test. And like that's just such a weird feeling to have, I'm sure.
And they had specifically, it was a weird feeling, but they had specifically told me not to remove the comforter or any of the blankets or the sheets from my bed. And all I was thinking was, I don't know where to sleep tonight. I don't want to sleep on the couch. I want to sleep in like somewhere in my house. I don't want to sleep with my parents. I guess there's other bedrooms, but like other people have been assaulted in the other bedrooms in the house. And so I went home and I immediately took all of the comforters, blankets off my bed and I put them in a garbage bag. I completely disobeyed what they said because just out of pure like anxiety. And like same with like, you know, the drinks that we had that night, like the cans, like they were White Claws. I had put them in a garbage bag and hidden them or I had thrown them away in like my friend's garbage can. And I was like, I know they're going to want these. I need you to dig through your garbage for them. And it was just all these things like that. Like I just put everything in bags against instruction. Yeah, but because that's what I wanted to do.
You were scared and you like didn't know what else to do.
Yeah. But there was a lot of just things they took. Like there was a time where they came to the house and they took pictures of our living room, of our kitchen, of my bedroom from all angles. Like if I had moved my desk at all, like they wanted me to put everything exactly how it was when I was assaulted. They took pictures of my basement. They took pictures of the bag that the comforter was in. They took pictures of the garbage bag that the drinks were in. Like everything was accounted for, which was good because, you know, we needed all this stuff later. Like text messages with our assailant, like text messages that my mom had with him, like everything was there. The medical report, my sports bra, my sweatshirt, my sweatpants, everything that I was wearing, my underwear, like, well, underwear actually the hospital had it, but they had everything. They acquired everything. The receipt of the alcohol that he had purchased, like the picture of the liquor store he purchased it from, like timestamps of when he got to my house, timestamps when he left, like video of the garage door opening, like everything that they could find they did, which is necessary for the investigation. However, it doesn't change the fact that it's very scary, it's very real, and it's very invasive, but it's a necessary invasion for justice, ultimately.
Yeah, it definitely is. Okay, we're back. We took a little break, got some coffee.
Got coffee. I dabbed my armpits. I have like a severe sweat problem. If you can see it, just know that I too am human.
It's crazy.
Yeah, you might not think it, but it's true. Okay.
So we were talking about evidence. We were talking about how they came and took all these crazy photos of literally fucking everything. And it was like your house became a crime scene in a way.
Yeah. And there was all of these moments, and specifically when they first said they were going to take my bed sheets, where I thought, do I really want to do this? Like, I wanted to stop, frankly. And that was at the very beginning. You know, I had this warm, squishy introduction to these nice agents, and then all of a sudden they're taking shit out of my house, taking pictures, and it's very invasive. But like I was saying, this is a necessary invasion, and it was for something bigger than that momentary discomfort.
Yeah.
But it was terrifying. Like,
yeah. And I think that like you're kind of getting like thrown into the deep end in a way. It's really easy to just be like, I'm going to throw in the towel. Like, this was too much. I want to quit. I want to give up. And I think that you're going to feel that. I mean, like, we both felt that multiple times throughout this like period of 2 years. And it's really scary and it's really hard, especially when like from that initial, like, you start this interview process, you start this investigation, you have no idea what's going on, you're totally in the dark, and it can be really easy to just say, you know what, like, I don't want to do this. And I think, I will say, I'm not going to go on a rant about our legal system and how we handle sexual assault survivors.
Rein it in, Laura. Rein it back.
We'll talk about that at a different time, because I do think this is a problem. But it just can be really scary, and I think, like, throughout the whole process, like, I did really want to quit and give up so many times. And I think the biggest thing for me was, like, right before I was supposed to testify, I was, like, losing my shit. I was, like, in the courtroom. I was, like, behind in a back room. And I, like, got the prosecuting attorney in, and I was like, I can't do this. Like, I'm walking out. And I was like, I'm done. I'm, like, peacing out, man. Like, sorry.
Good luck.
Like, good luck. Figure it out. But I'm not going to be part of this, just because, like, I knew that, like, I had to walk into a courtroom and literally sit facing.
All eyes on you.
But, like, facing our fucking assailant. They, like, purposefully...
It's like a diagonal.
Yeah, so that they purposefully put it so that you are looking at him while you're testifying. And that is a whole nother story that we'll get into at a different point. But I wanted to give up. And I just wanted to quit so bad.
So why didn't you?
I had that moment of, like, I'm not doing this for myself. Like, I'm doing this because this guy needs to learn that there are consequences to actions like this, and all men need to learn that there are consequences to doing this. And I think that previously and historically, men have been getting away with raping and assault all the time, everywhere.
Especially in the military.
Especially in the military, when there's, like, a higher percentage of men and things like that. And there have been no consequences. And if there are consequences, they're fucking stupid.
Like a slap on the wrist.
Yeah, like, Brock Turner case.
That's what I was just
He got
thinking.
6 months, and he got let out early. Mm-hmm. And to be fair, that judge did get released. Like,
yeah.
They were like, fuck you, get the fuck out. But, like, it's unbelievable. And so I think I was thinking about that, and I was like, if there's a chance that he gets convicted and there's actual real consequences to this, I need to be a part of that, and I need to help with that process, and I need to help get us there. And, like, we need to set the precedent that this is not okay, and that, like, you will have severe consequences for doing these types of things. And so for me, I was like, this isn't about me. This is about, like, any future woman who might be assaulted by this man specifically, and just in general saying, hey, you can't do this. Mm-hmm. And if you do, you're going to go to prison.
Yeah.
And I think that's, like, what got me through that feeling of, I want to quit, I want to give up. It was just, like, this is so much more. This is about so much more than just you. Mm-hmm. So go make this sacrifice, because you're a strong-ass bitch, and you got this. Mm-hmm. And I had to tell myself that through every single stage in this. It wasn't just when I had to testify. It was everything. It was that initial interview. It was any other interview that we had to go through. It was, you know, that first time sitting in the courtroom, and I just had to tell myself.
Seeing his face.
Like, yeah, seeing his face for the first time. It really was just like, you're strong, you got this, and this is for the greater good.
Yeah.
We're going to show the world you can't do this.
Yeah. It's not okay.
Yeah.
And even, like, I think a lot about, or I thought a lot about how, okay, he might not get convicted necessarily, but maybe there will be some other sort of punishment, like maybe dishonorable discharge, or maybe, like, things like that. Because what I knew was he was a senior at the Air Force Academy, and he was about to go into he was about to be an officer. Like, he was going to be in a bigger position of power where he could potentially get away with this more. And if I had known for a fact that he had assaulted at least 3 people, later we found out that there was a few more, then, like, how many more didn't speak up, or how many more do we not know of, and how many more will he assault in the future? And so there's, like, the future aspect, there's the aspect of just, like, hey, it's not okay. Like, this shouldn't be very chill in society that this is happening so much. And then on top of that, you know, I think everyone involved, and anyone who has ever been assaulted, there's a lot of mental repercussions and physical repercussions that happen after being assaulted that wouldn't be there if you hadn't been raped. Like, I think I would have had better grades that semester. I don't think I would have necessarily quit figure skating if I hadn't been raped.
That's a whole nother story we can talk about later.
But it's like the emotional and physical toll that being assaulted takes on you. Like, that is physically taking away I think you are physically changing the way like your chemical breakdown. Like there's studies that show that people who are molested or assaulted when they're a child, they're like 15% more likely or something, don't quote me on this, but it's a fairly high percentage more likely to develop an autoimmune disease because it's like chemically changing the way you respond to things, how you think, all of that. And so this person changed who I am. Like that's a fact. I hate giving him that power, but he changed the way that I look at the world, the way I view sex, the way I view men, the way I function as a being. Mm-hmm. And if you're changing that stuff, there should be a repercussion for you. Because I never asked for it. You didn't ask for that. No one asked to be assaulted. But it happens fucking anyways. And something needs to be done about it. Because it's not okay.
Mm-hmm. Boom. Mic drop.
Mic drop.
Yeah, and I think that is like a huge reason why we went through this trial. You know? And like...
It's the reason.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's also a chance. Like, I think it's a 7% conviction rate. At the time it was. I know things fluctuate every year.
Yeah. It's honestly really sad.
Which means...
We need to do better.
93% of cases at that time.
Just nothing happened.
Yeah.
And that cannot be the norm.
Yeah. I kind of wanted to talk about, like, just the military, like, the way they talk to us. I don't know if you would be interested in going there.
What do you mean?
So... I had said, the people that interviewed us were very squishy warm, didn't really seem military, weren't in uniforms. And then every attorney after that, the rest of the investigative people that I talked to are super duper formal, as they should be. That's their job.
Yeah.
But it was very intimidating.
Yeah, I think my perspective on it's probably a little different because at the time I was actually in ROTC, and I actually was accepted to the Air Force Academy, and
which is crazy.
Committed there for a time, and so I had dealt with every single day I was dealing with officers because of ROTC, and I had training all the time, and that was normal for me, and I had to always talk to them in a certain way, and then also for the Air Force Academy stuff, I had to meet with a lot of high-ranking officers, and so I had all of that going on kind of at this pretty much the same time that this was going on. And so for me, it was pretty normal. Mm-hmm. And that was just something that I dealt with from day to day. So I don't think it stuck out to me maybe as much as it did to you. But I think I'd be interested to hear what your perspective was on that.
Yeah, so since you had encountered all of these people, it was more normalized.
Yeah.
As for a classic civilian, which is me. It almost felt like when I would communicate with them, which I'll talk about some text in a moment here, it always felt like they were questioning my credibility. And it was weird because I'm wait, you're supposed to be on my side. But in reality, they're actually the investigative people aren't on anybody's side. They're well, the jury they're fact finders, but the investigative people are just supposed to find everything they can out. That's their job. It's not to root for you or to root for your assailant. It's just to find information out. But with the way they had talked, a lot of it felt like it was oh, you're mentioning that you think someone else has been assaulted? And I'm yeah, I already told you that. And then they would say why do you think that? I'm we've already talked about this. It's all of these kind of prying questions. I'm pulling up some texts from our lovely British agent. So there was a point in the court process where, or not during court, but
during the investigation.
The investigation where I started to get worried for my safety, and I didn't necessarily think that our assailant was going to show up to my house or to the ice skating rink or to church or anything, but I was worried that once he was notified that an investigation had began, I was worried that if he knew it was me or you that had reported, that he could show up because he knew everything. He knew where I lived. He knew our garage code. He knew what time we went to church, when I was ice skating. And so I made the decision that I wanted a protective order to be put in place. And so I had asked this specific special agent, I guess we can say, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's what they are.
Yeah.
I was asking if he could disclose the information, like if he could tell me if our assailant knew that it was me or not. And I was like, I'm also just looking for an update in regards to the investigation. And he said, what sort of update are you looking for, ma'am? I'm not able to talk with any subjects of investigations without first advising them of their rights, meaning, yes, he is aware of the allegations. And I said, does he know the allegations are from me? And he said, I'm sorry, I can't give specifics about what we discussed, but do you have any reasons to believe he would think the allegations came from someone else? And so it's just like, I'm asking a simple question of, hey, I'm scared about my safety. Can you just let me know if he knows that it's me? Mm-hmm. And he's like, why do you think it's somebody else? Like, that's not the fucking point here, special agent.
Shannon got very, very heated.
Oh my god, I was
throughout
really
the like whole investigation, she was getting pissed the fuck off, which rightfully so, honestly, because some of the shit they said was just hilarious.
Yeah, it's true. So like this one, I have, I'm primarily concerned with my safety. If he thinks the allegations came from me, I want to make sure I am safe. Additionally, I have no knowledge of what he thinks because frankly, there are probably a lot of other girls that the allegations could be from. Blah, blah, blah. I said, I'm not asking for details. I'm simply concerned for my safety. And he responds with, I understand your concern, ma'am. How would you like me to assist with ensuring you stay safe? And that was the thing of like, I don't know. I'm telling you I'm worried about my safety. So I need you to tell me what my options are. Mm-hmm. And perhaps I got a little heated emotionally, but I just felt like at every corner of the investigation, it was, well, why do you think that way? Like, should we be concerned about this? Like, you want a protective order. Well, we don't know if we have enough evidence for that. And it was just these things of, hey man, I'm just a little worried. I want my day. I want to peacefully be able to go to church on a Sunday with my family, knowing that I'm not going to have to see my rapist while praising Jesus. Like, that's it. You know?
Yeah.
And I just felt like it was a constant questioning of my credibility when really it was just me wanting to know what was going on.
Yeah. And like that was so consistent throughout the whole thing, was just they don't actually actively tell you anything that's going on. So you have to be proactive if you're not the one that's going there and texting them and being like, hey, what is going on? Why is this happening?
Texting your attorney.
Yeah. Like, why is this happening? Like, blah, blah. Like, they will not tell you dick about shit. Like, it's just like, what the fuck? Like, why is it so hard for you to tell me information? Like, the reason that this is a thing is because, like, I came forward and reported this and now you're not telling me anything. And I feel like most of the investigation was like that. And the investigation lasted over a year.
So I reported in 2019. And then in 2021.
At the end of 2021 was our trial. It was like very end December
right
2021.
Before Christmas.
Yeah.
So 2021. So a little bit over 2 years was the entirety of it.
Yeah. And like for the majority of that time period, you heard nothing. You knew nothing. You were just completely left in the dark. And then when you would reach out and be like, hey, can you explain this to me? They would give answers like that. That's like they start questioning you. And then you're like, well, I don't know what's going on. I don't know how to be protected. Like, that's why I'm talking to you.
Like, my favorite thing would be when, favorite is sarcastic, by the way. My favorite thing was they would say something with a lot of legal mumbo jumbo. Like, we are having an Article 402 hearing. When will you be available? And like,
what the fuck is an Article 402 hearing?
Yeah, like they would just say it as if I've like been through this before. I'm like, oh, or that I go to fucking law school. Like, homie, I'm like 19, okay? I don't know anything. I'm a marketing student. Like, what?
Help me out a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so just hear this loud and clear. If you're someone who is starting an investigation or has been assaulted and is thinking about it, you will not know what the fuck is going on, like, ever, until it is over.
Yeah, and I would say do your own research, because I think that's, like, how we found a lot of information out. Like, I'm super interested in law. I think it's fascinating. And so for me, because we never knew what was going on and we had no control or power, one of the ways that I felt like I could have power was by understanding what the fuck they were talking about when they were talking about legal shit, understanding what things like couldn't be asked towards me, like understanding the law surrounding that. Like, that was a way that I kind of coped with it and was like, I'm going to take some of my power back by understanding like what my rights are, what they can talk to me about, what they mean when they like say some like fucking legal shit that sounds absurd. And that was just like all research based and like you do that in your own time, but like it kind of does help because then when you go into the courtroom and like you're getting ready for trial, like there was a time when the defense, I don't remember if this might have been in one of the meetings before, they asked me a question that legally they couldn't ask me, and I knew that. So I didn't say anything. And then my attorney was like, oh, you can't ask that question. Mm-hmm. But like the fact that I knew, like, no, fuck off, it made me feel like I had some control. Yeah. And honestly, like that was really nice to have during this whole time. So there is going to be a lot of times when you are in the dark like that, but like as much as you can, educate yourself.
Yeah.
And that would be like my biggest piece of advice.
That's a really good one. Yeah, I spent a lot of time looking at other cases, like what happened when people were convicted, what happened when they weren't. And it totally did bring me power. I guess I didn't realize that that's what it was, but it did. It boosted my confidence. It made me feel more credible too. Like it's sad because I thought that going into reporting and going into this whole process that me just coming forward would be enough, but it's not. Like you need to feel credible. The jury needs to look at you and think that you're believable, and you need to be careful about what you post on social media during that time. Like I made everything private, like everything, Venmo, like Twitter, things I don't even use, just private. Or I was also told to potentially just delete everything because it's all a part of it. But a way to kind of take things into your own hands what we did was to do a bunch of research.
Yeah.
So I guess like in summary, you're a badass bitch. That's not where I was going.
Don't forget that.
Yeah, all of you out there. There's that. There's this is an invasive process. I would say it's worth it. Yeah, I would say it's a process that is not always rewarding, but it's, I think, something that's necessary. It's the basic laws of the society that we live in. When something is wrong, like, there should be punishment or there should be justice. And so this process is grueling and it's excruciating and it is emotionally draining like nothing else I've ever gone through. However, like, one thing at a time. This is bigger than yourself. This is about right and wrong. This is about getting justice for knowing that this person stripped you of some things that you never asked for. They stripped you of your safety, like your internal security. They violated that. If you're going the military route and you're like me and you're a civilian, the constant usage of ma'am and the questions might piss you off, but they're doing their job behind the scenes. They really are. Yeah. That's what I was going to say, is that they really, like, you don't know what's going on, but I promise you they're working on it. Like, they are, and you might not see it until the very, very end. Frankly, there's just probably a whole lot of assault cases that they're working on at the moment.
Yeah. So I think patience is the key thing here, like being able to take a deep breath and take a step back and allow yourself to just be like, okay, this is where I'm at. And that's the same thing for even if you're not going through a trial or an investigation, even if you're just like, this is something that I've been through, like I've been assaulted, like that is the same thing where it's just like, it's day by day and it's step by step. And when you are overwhelmed, you have to remember, I need to just be patient and like allow myself to go through the healing processes. And some of those healing processes are going to be ugly and awful and terrible and dark and fucked up.
Yeah. Nasty.
But you just have to keep going. You can't give up.
Yeah. Meet yourself where you are in your suffering.
Exactly.
And ask others to meet you there too.
Yeah. Because it's okay to ask for help.
Yeah.
And it's okay to ask questions so you understand what the fuck is going on.
Yeah. Ask your attorneys questions.
Yeah.
Don't let them just tell you Article 420, like, whatever. 1966 Smith v. Joe. Like, no. Say, hey, bitch. What the fuck is that?
What do you mean?
Could you explain this to me? Don't forget, I didn't go to law school. And then they'll be like, oh yeah, of course, so sorry.
Yeah.
My bad.
It's like,
or maybe they'll be like, why do you want to know that?
Why? Why do you care to know?
Thanks for listening today. I hope everyone go eat a snack. Go take yourself on a date.
Take a bath. Drink some wine.
Yeah.
Honestly. That'd be nice. We'll probably do that.
And if you don't
later.
drink, go get a cool beverage. I think the art of like if you don't drink coffee or you don't drink alcohol, the like getting a cool beverage somewhere is less romanticized. Go get a fucking mocktail. Drink some juice out of a fancy glass at a restaurant.
Honestly, fancy glasses make all the difference.
It's true.
Yeah. Do it.
Yeah.
You'll think
Treat yourself today.
Okay, on that note.
Peace out.
Peace out.
Cheers.
Cheers, y'all.
Woo! I'm gonna take this fucking shirt off.